Have you ever wondered who has the biggest one? And no, it's not what you're thinking. We're talking amateur ATV cross-country racing. Who's got the biggest series? There's quite a few reputable ATV hare scramble series throughout the entire country. I tracked the 2022 amateur ATV participants in each of these series that I'm going to list and talk about, and we're going to stack them up and see how they rank against each other. These are some of your biggest series in the United States. Obviously, the Nationals, Grand National Cross Country Championship. That's going to be our big contender. That should be our biggest show, right? Everybody wants a national win. Everybody wants a national title. So we're going to start backwards, and I am going to start with the Worx series. I couldn't get a lot of information on the Worx series because of the way they have their scorekeeping set up on their website. It lets you select each round from that. But once you get to the round, you can only select a class. You can't find the overall and see how many people actually showed up. I couldn't get the information I needed from the Worx website for the results, but it looked like the numbers that they did receive for 2022 don't really stack up and compete. So we're going to move right into number 9. And ranked at number 9 was the Oklahoma Cross Country Racing Association, the OCCRA. And Oklahoma had good turnouts for their races, but they don't put out the numbers that a lot of the other series do. Oklahoma Cross Country Racing Association actually had 12 rounds in 2022. They had an average of 43 racers at each of these rounds on ATVs at the amateur level. Now, I understand some of these series are going to have a front row, which you can call pro or double A or A row, whatever. We're going to lump them all in just to make this easy. I'm assuming that Oklahoma Cross Country Racing has more dirt bikes like most of these other series, but it's nice to see that they at least do have some interest in their ATV scene in that state, and people are still interested in racing them. So at number 9 is Oklahoma Cross Country Racing Association. Let's take a look and see who's ranked number 8 in the country. The AXC, the Arkansas Cross Country Racing Series. They are your next largest in the country. Ranked at number 8, they have 55 racers that turned out in 22, an average of 55 racers per race. So they put out 12 rounds, and on average, they had 55 racers show up. You can see that the first few rounds had a big turnout for the AXC, and they kind of dropped off for round 3, but their biggest turnout was at round 4. Out of the 12 rounds, they had 75 participants in the amateur ATV racing, and good turnout. 75 quads for any division or any series is a big turnout. So awesome to see the AXC keeping things alive down there in Arkansas, ranked number 8 in the country for the biggest turnout for ATV cross-country racing. Taking a look at number 7 is D6, actually not far from me in New York. D6 has a lot of races down in Pennsylvania, even a couple here in New York. They had 13 rounds in 2022. So 13 chances to line up your ATV and go compete in some cross-country racing. And the D6 had an average of 58 racers at each of these races. It is an AMA sanctioned series. It gets a decent turnout. And looking at their numbers, their biggest one was the opening round, and they kind of lost some numbers trailing off towards mid-season, but picked it back up as people wanted to race later in the year. So number 7, District 6. And moving on to number 6 on the list is FTR, Florida Trail Riders. And you can guess that that's probably warmer than some of the other series being down there in Florida. You've got some hot temperatures, but you also have big names that live in that area that race and compete in that series. Some big names like Walker Fowler and Hunter Hart and Brandon Frazier. A lot of guys use those Florida rounds with FTR to train for the GNCCs. So looking at their series from 22, they had 10 rounds at FTR, and on average, they had 110 ATV racers show up per round. Florida Trail Riders comes in at number 6 on our list. Coming in at number 5 is Mid-East Racing, and they are an AMA sanctioned series, and I'm guessing a lot of their racing takes place in the Mid-East. Their website was pretty basic, but it looks like they do use the same scoring that we use for NIOA here in New York. so I was able to find all the information I was looking for. Mid-East Racing actually held 14 rounds in 2022 for their ATV competitors, and on average, they put up some good numbers. On average, they had 128 racers show up. That's impressive numbers, 128 racers per race. Those are some big numbers right there out of the Mid-East Racing. They are ranked number 5 on the list. Coming in at number 4 is Worx, a true American woods racing series. This series looks like it could be a lot of fun. It looks like they have a great turnout. A lot of pros go through there as well and use it for training for GNCC races. A lot of it is in the Ohio and Pennsylvania area, so again on the east coast of the country, but one of the bigger series that ATV racers have in this country to play on. So Worx comes in at number 4 with an average of 155 racers per round. That's some big numbers. Worx comes in at number 4 on the list in the country. All right, number 3, top 3, here it is. We're looking at the Indiana Cross Country Racing Association. Obviously, they're not on the East Coast. They're a little bit further west, but they do a great job putting on events. They held 12 races in 2022, and they had some really big numbers come out for a lot of these. Their first 4 rounds all had over 200 racers, 200 ATV racers on the track. Slightly less than that as the season went on, but on average, they had 196 racers at each one of their events. 12 rounds in 2022. So ICXR comes in at number 3 on the list. And number 2, a series near and dear to me, my home state, New York Off-Road Association. We are an AMA sanctioned series, and we are number 2 on this list for amateur ATV cross-country racers. We had some real big numbers last year in 2022. At the opening round, 278 ATVs on the line. This year wasn't much worse, only about 10, 13 less. We had 265 at round 1 this year, but very big numbers for that opening round. People are obviously excited to get going in New York State, but the biggest round was actually at Broome, Tioga. 289 racers attended round 3 of Nioa in 2022, and in a whole, we had over 1,000 racers compete that day for round 3, breaking our previous record. So that was a milestone for Nioa. Dirt bikes and ATVs, youth, adult, everybody combined, over 1,000. But ATVs is what we're focused on in this video because I'm an amateur ATV racer, and that's what this channel is about. So 289 at one of our races, very big number there. Out of 11 rounds last year, Nioa had on average 252 adult amateur ATV racers per race. So over 250 on the track at every round in Nioa. That's a big number. And we get a lot of dust up here in New York, so you can imagine the dust we were kicking up with 250 guys going around that track. So Nioa, number 2, coming in. And we all know who's going to be at number 1. It's our national championship for this sport, the GNCC. Everyone knows it. You've all heard that series more so than other series. If you say you race GNCC, most people understand what that is.
It's a household name.
It's the Grand National Cross Country Championship. And like I said earlier in the video, the GNCC offers an AM race and a PM race. The AM race is usually your C, B, A class guys mixed in there. There are 2 pro classes included in the AM race, and that is 4x4 Pro and Women's Pro. In the afternoon, the Men's Pro line up for a slightly modified track. They usually get an extra section in there that we might not see in the AM races. But the PM races will usually include all your pros, both XC1 and XC2. They'll also include A or AA guys that are at your local series and usually up front. They're very fast riders in the PM GNCC race. So combined, GNCC has the largest numbers. Combined, they are looking at a staggering 478 for their opening round, but it wasn't their biggest. The last round was actually the biggest in 2022 at Ironman. I got a chance to line up myself. 727 ATVs combined in the AM and the PM races at the Ironman last year. That's staggering. That's a big number. And I mean, if that doesn't tell the manufacturers they need to get back to developing sport quads and maybe even a new sport 4x4, Honda, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, I don't know what does, because the passion's still there for people. The interest is still there. I think the entertainment value is still there. That's why I make so many videos. I find entertaining. I hope you guys do too. I just wish more manufacturers did, because Yamaha's the only one carrying the flagship. And if you're not a Yamaha fan, you only have an option of going to race an older manufacturer like a Honda or Suzuki or KTM. So you're limited on a new sport quad. And I don't get it, because the interest is still there. The numbers are still there. Obviously, GNCC has those big numbers. But what if we just took out the PM races? What if we just focused on the numbers from their AM, ATV, amateur races? Because after all, the rest of these series aren't really paying a lot of money. If you're on the front row, you might take home some bucks, but everybody else has to pay to play. So let's be honest, it's amateur racing across the board outside of that afternoon PM race at GNCC. You could say you've got a AA row in your series and call them pro. That's great, but your payouts just aren't there like other sports, such as stock car racing or even motocross racing on a dirt bike. Those sports tend to pay out a little bit better. We're trying to get the credit that these athletes deserve in cross-country racing. There's entertainment value there. There should be compensation there as well. So with just focusing on the GNCC numbers for the morning races and divide by their rounds, they had 13 in 2022. On average, they had 260 racers at each round for their AM amateur ATV racing. Let's compare that to Niowa. Again, Niowa had 252 per round. So we're not far off from actually running the same numbers as a national series, and we're way up here in New York. We have a lot of interest in this area. I think we should bring in a lot more interest from sponsors, but it's just not there. So I ask you guys to share this video, share your passion for the sport, and share your videos and your photos with friends from your race experiences as well, and try to bring in newcomers to it, because we don't want to see it die. It's not in jeopardy of dying, but we want to see it grow. And in order for it to grow, we need to bring in sponsorship and get some new eyeballs on the entertainment value we have going for us. I'm very proud of the Niowa Nation. We're a big series, and we're growing every year. And right now we're in comparison with the GNCC. So it's very good to see the amount that Niowa has grown. We are the second largest race series in the country, and I'm proud to be part of it. Thank you guys for watching the channel. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and do me a favor, share this video. You're going to want to stay tuned. I got some exciting ones coming up next. I talk about how I fixed my quad from round 2 at Niowa and what changes I'm going to make for the third round. And then we're going to put out the next episode of Between the Trees. So as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys at the races.